Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com, BidamountLive.com, and P.L. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is December 10th, 2021. A couple of weeks to go until Christmas, and here we are. It's Friday. It's been sort of a busy week around here. I've been dealing with some things. And one of the things I wanted to mention was we're going to restart the, people have asked, and we had to stop doing the identification assistant service and the preview assistant service about a month ago because of I was in the hospital and things, and I've still got some stuff coming up and CAT scans and whatnot, but I'd like to get back to doing them because I miss it. That's the one thing, and I've been getting a lot of rest and getting some of my energy back. I've got more to do, but I want to do as much as I normally do, so I feel like I'm doing something. I'm still at home. Hopefully, I'm trying to get a green light to spend a little time in my office and so forth. We'll see how that goes. But overall, I'm feeling okay, and I want to get back to doing things. So, at any rate, we'll start accepting the ID and the identification and preview things as of now. I guess we'll take the warning down off the submission page. We'll see how it goes, and we'll just play it by ear for now, okay? What else is going on here? Oh, there's a couple of sales coming up. Those of you on the global member auction pages, it's gotten very quiet since Rob Michaels had a sale last week. There's a number of sales that have wrapped up. And heading into December, the auction houses tend to take time off. You're not going to see a lot of fresh listings between now and Christmas. There aren't that many. You'll see some pop up Christmas week, between Christmas and New Year's, because they're getting ready for the January sales. And you may see some mid-late January sales turn up on the global auction pages, but it'll be a little bit quiet. But there's a couple of sales up right now that I wanted to mention if for particular areas, because you're going to get some good deals. December, historically, people at auctions, a lot of people aren't paying attention at this point. They're doing other things. eBay listings quiet down considerably. People are traveling, going to see their family, so they're not thinking about selling much. They're not. Collectors often stop looking into collecting, believe it or not. So you want to check this out. This is a sale that Jackson's International in Cedar Falls is having. They've got this thing. If you're into Tibetan and Thai works of art, this is a pretty dandy cabinet on stand with leaflets, with prayer leaflets on it. This is a nice set. You don't see them often with their boxes, but this is pretty good. All right, you want to look into that. Modest opening bid. It should bring $600 or $800, but we'll see. Nice little opportunity there. And also in 3 days down in at Heritage in Dallas. I think they're sort of without an Asian art expert now, but they're doing the best they can. And this is in their upcoming sale in 3 days, 4 days. It's a really nice, if you're a Japanese collector, you want to check this out. I'll tell you, it's 15, 16, basically 16-inch tall jar. It's a lacquered porcelain. These are terrific, and this is a rather nice one. It's 15 3/4 inches tall, lacquered over porcelain, signed on the bottom, nicely done. These are fairly rare, and if you're a Japanese buyer, you want to look into this. This is pretty cool. Here's one, the mark on the bottom, and it's interesting. I had one of these many, many years ago that I sold to the Peabody Essex Museum that was in blue and white with black and gilt, and it had children playing Go in the areas where the porcelain was exposed. It was rather unusual. But this is another nice one. This is a good one. I like the gilding. I like the birds and so forth. And I think the estimate is completely reasonable, $600 to $800. It's a big jar, signed on the bottom. You'd have to look up the potter. Or the maker. I haven't bothered. But it's a nice looking thing. All right, and then they also, this is over at Andrew Jones in California. They have this big ormolu mounted 38-inch tall Amari baluster vase. It's a Meiji period or late Edo period jar, but it's got a couple of bids, but it's big, 38 inches tall. If you're a Meiji buyer, you want to check that out. All the things that we're seeing that come up that we're chasing around so far have been this. And then this, that was just a reminder. We've added, Material Culture has an auction coming up that's on the global member pages. We'll get to it in a second. All right, but this is an auction that's coming up. Sunburst Auctions, I don't know anything about them. But they have a bunch of books if you want to buy yourself a nice book for Christmas, this is coming up on tomorrow, I guess. But some really good reference books. Um, let's get over here to this site here. Sunburst Auctions. There used to be a Sunburst Fruit Company here in New England, but I don't think this is any relation to that. Here it is. I don't know anything about the auction house in particular. They're in Diamond Bar, California, wherever that is. But they have some books coming up, and there's some good books in here on Chinese works of art. Okay, and I recommend you go through it. Chinese and Japanese works of art. They have some you'll recognize, some you don't. They have a couple that are very nice. One of them is the Chinese bronze book that Rizzoli put out a number of years ago. And then there's the Copeland collection, written by a friend of mine, William Sargent, at the Peabody Essex Museum. And this is the DuPont Copeland collection. The DuPont family donated an amazing collection of 18th century porcelain figures and Japanese figures to the Peabody Essex Museum probably 30 years ago now, or longer. But Billy Sargent wrote a book about it. The Zhou Tang collection of early ceramics, and the Harcher cargo book. And there's some other books here. Let's see what else we got. Here's the Copeland collection. $10. We've got a $10 bid on it so far. That's it. Should sell for over $100. And then there's the Hatcher Cargo book, which is, of course, the transitional, early blue and white wares. Hatcher Cargo, the complete record rare book published at Oxford in 1988. If you want to get a hold of that, a lot of people are interested in Hatcher Cargo material. And then there's this. There are one of two books here that have been with the Victoria and Albert series, Far Eastern Art, that were published. This is the book by Craig Clunas, Chinese Export Watercolors. I have this book. I actually have all the books I just mentioned, so I won't be bidding on them, but I can recommend them. And this is Chinese Export Watercolors. These are fairly small books. They're not great big tomes, but they're very, very well written. Craig Clunas is a brilliant writer and a font of information on Chinese watercolors. And if you don't have this book, get it. It's worth reading. If you read this book and absorb what's in it, you'll know more about Chinese watercolors than 99% of the dealers out there, and probably more than every other collector who hasn't yet read the book. It's a very good book. It's full of information and very well researched. And the other book that's in this sale, it's also from the Victoria and Albert series, is Chinese Ceramics, Porcelain of the Qing Dynasty by Rose Kerr. Also a very worthwhile book. If you're looking to buy somebody something nice for Christmas, this is a pretty good book. They're out of print, and both of these books are worth having in your library. And then there's the last one here. This is Chinese Ivories from the Shang to Qing Dynasty. I also have this book, and I can recommend it if you're interested in early carved Chinese ivories. It was published by the Oriental Ceramic Society, I don't know, God, a long time ago, 30 years ago or so. Longer. I don't know if they have the published date in here or not. I should have looked it up. Mine's on the shelf in the other room. Anyway, it's wonderfully done. If you're interested in even if you're not interested in ivories, but you're interested in early Chinese carvings, this book is really great to have, because stylistically you're going to see things in there done in ivory that they also did in other materials. It's a good way to learn about the style of carvings from different periods, because it did change. There are variations, and how they carved ivories are often how they also carved other things like wood or stone or horn, or any number of other raw materials. So it's very good information for that also. All right. So just a few hints at things that are coming up, and there is a rather good sale of let's see if it's on this. Yeah, the Japanese stuff. There's some very good Satsuma on the global pages, and these are all. Let's get the auction house up here. I think I'm on. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Why isn't it loading? There we go. These are all at Jackson International in Cedar Falls. There's some good Satsuma. There's some very nice small bits. There's some good Okimono, good Netskis, and so forth. But they put together some pretty generous lots of Satsuma. So if you like Satsuma, or you deal in Satsuma a little bit and you collect, you do both, buy yourself a lot, pull out the things you like, and then sell off the rest over the next few months. You probably get back all your money and even come up with a little bit ahead for another acquisition down the road. There's some very nice lacquer and leather Meiji period cases and so forth. There are two very nice pair of lacquer bottles, both Meiji period, quite nice, not terribly big. These are 6 or 7 inches tall. There's some other smaller bits. There's a nice Hirado, a Fu Lion. And there's this. If you are a Japanese sword or ivory collector, you want to check this out. Now, this will have some shipping restrictions because it's made from ivory. And but this is early. This isn't something that's been killed, from a recently harvested horn off of some poor elephant. This was harvested 150 years ago, roughly. But it is a superbly carved sword handle. This is a ceremonial thing. But the quality of the carving of this is just outstanding. It measures about 9 inches long. Very, very fine workmanship. Really top quality all the way through. And if you're in the U.S. and you think you might want to take a shot at it, go ahead. Because you'll probably get it for a pretty reasonable price, I suspect, because no one's going to pay to get it shipped internationally because you're not going to be able to get an export permit for it. So, at any rate, if you're anywhere near Cedar Falls, just go over there and buy it and pick it up. Otherwise, you're going to have to get it to the local UPS store or somebody and get them to handle the shipping for you. But at any rate, you don't want to be in violation of any laws. But at any rate, that's a heck of a fine piece of Japanese carved elephant ivory. Hell of a fine piece. Really, really, really is. And check the rest of the sale out. It's worth looking into. Okay, now, what else is going on? Oh, eBay results. Interesting week. There wasn't a lot on there, but they had some rather good results. And one of the things they had was this. This was that very nicely framed Chinese watercolor on pith, but in a very nice early frame, 1860s or 70s frame. Here's a picture of the back of it. And this was being offered by our friends down in Rhode Island at WW. I never know how to pronounce this. Woolworth. At any rate, they handle estate stuff down there. They do a good job. And they listed this oddly as Japanese. And I think, I said last week, I think maybe they have somebody new doing their listings because it's pretty obviously a Chinese thing. I think they sort of flipped the script on where it was from. But anyway, this was a really nice package. Very attractive painting, beautiful frame. And it ended up selling for $1,280. But the frame was killer. The frame was worth $800 or $900. Heck of a nice frame. All right, and then let's see here. Over here to this was that rather nice dragon rondelle on silk. Had some losses in the background here and so forth, but a nice old one, early 19th century, maybe a little older. Ended up selling for $760 as is. Now, there's another one coming up this week that's in really good condition. Closes in a few days. We'll get to it in a few minutes. That's up to about $3,000. I think it's got a ways to go. It's a beautiful one. All right, but at any rate, that was fine. And then over here, this was, I think, one of the little dandy bargains of the week. There was this very nice little Blanc de Chine Dewa cup, libation cup, horn-formed libation cup, probably early 19th century, but nicely done. Very nicely done. Nice creamy glaze, nice white porcelain glaze. $170. That was a great buy. Had no chips or cracks and in good condition. This was from a seller down in Texas somewhere. Antiques by Mimi. They haven't got a lot of feedback. 242, and I think somebody got a nice buy on that because they probably, it's not 18th century. Yeah, it wasn't 18th century. It was early 19th century, but it was a nice example, very nicely potted, very nicely detailed, and I think the price was very reasonable. All right, now let's mosey on over to this. The Satsuma wire handle teapot. This is sort of unusual for Satsuma to have a wired handle on it. It has an old mark stamp on the bottom. Nice dragon around the top, good gilding on it. But these pots with the wire handles are fairly unusual. It's a late Meiji example. Nicely done, perfectly nice. And somebody paid $511 for it. But it's a fairly rare form in Satsuma. And if you're sitting there saying, yeah, I haven't seen that. You see them sometimes with the fixed handles. You see them with a squarer body, but rarely in this round form with this wired handle arrangement. It was made to have a wire handle, which is rather nice. And then over here to this, the Famille Rose plate or charger. We talked about this last week. It was up to around $550, as I recall, when it was in here, and we thought it would go up another several hundred, and it did in the end. People love these plates, these 100 Boys plates. Here it is with these bamboo leaf splashes around the back. Whenever you see these bamboo leaf splashes like this around the backs of these plates with that foot rim in particular. Let's blow it up right here. That sort of chewed up, looking a little bit white, but not snow white, not creamy and smooth, a little slightly gritty. And these single stroke decorations here, these aren't outlined. They're just brushed on quickly to finish them. And they often use bamboo. Whenever you see those, you always think late 19th century, early 20th century, which was the age on this. But very nicely decorated with the 100 Boys motif in the Dragon Festival, and ended up selling for $1,247, which is a pretty strong price. But these plates with these kids, especially if they're rimless, they have no rims, they always seem to do very, very well. Always seem to do well. All right, and then over to this, that nice old Kutani double spout teapot. Not an extremely rare thing and not an extremely valuable thing, but a very nice thing. And I like to share things that I think are going to be reasonably priced, things that everybody can take a shot at and own. You don't have to be the Aga Khan to place a bid and end up with something genuine and worth collecting. And if you're a Japanese Kutani buyer, this was a nice thing to collect. And it was fully marked on the bottom, double spout, which is unusual. The quality of the decoration is very good, probably done during the Meiji period. And somebody picked it up for $190. Not bad at all. Measured around 10 inches tall, but a nice looking ewer, double spout ewer. Really was nice piece. All right, and then over here to this. This was, I think, sort of a bargain of the week. Was this little message case? Here it is. All right, and those of you that see these, if you don't know what these are, this thing is it's made of carved ivory. It has a little latch on the bottom and the top, and I've owned these over the years. They're really they're very interesting. But inside, when you fan them open, there it is on the end. There's the end here. It's like a card case, but you fan it open, and there are these little blank pieces of ivory in here. And what those are things to write on. So if you're out somewhere, a gentleman would carry this in his pocket, or a lady, and you'd put your monogram on it here, and you'd carry this. And if you're out somewhere and it was like basically a notepad, and you'd get out your pencil and you'd write down, get a gallon of milk, or met so and so, remember to send him a card, and then they were erasable. You could erase them off of the ivory and clean it off and reuse them. All right, and these are fairly rare. They're sort of unusual gentleman's accoutrements. It had a little loss right here up the side. You can see where that section broke away, but really pretty unusual. Really unusual. And you don't see them very often. Often you just see the front piece is all that's left over. And these were often made between 1830, 1840, and about the mid 1860s typically. This one has not. This one is not finished yet. And it's going to be in the newsletter page this week. It should bring $200 or $300 anyway. It's a rather interesting thing. All right, and I wanted to point that out because people often see these. They say, "What is that? What is that thing meant for? What are those little leaves for?" It's to write in. Okay, aide memoire they called it. To remember, just reminders. People used to carry flip notepads in their pockets or 3x5 note cards in their pockets. Same sort of thing. At any rate. And then these were up last week. A nice pair of Mandarin, nice square-formed vases that taper down with food lines on them. These weren't enormous, as I recall. I think they're about 14 inches tall or something. 12 and a quarter inches tall each. These weren't huge. They ended up selling for $691, made around 1840 to 1860, somewhere in there. Alrighty, and then over to this, the Japanese woodblock print. This was a nice one, nice little seascape. This was put up by Woolworths also, and it's by Hiroshi Yoshida. Nice looking old, first strike. This doesn't look like a restrike to me. Very pleasing colors though. I love that soft violet, the shadows. This is what Yoshida was known for. This very soft, calm effect. A beautiful example. And it ended up selling for $434. It was right in the range for his work. Yoshida's work typically, it's called Evening Rain, I guess, or evening after rain, excuse me. Typically sell $350 to $550, somewhere in there, very often. Sometimes you get them for a little less, but this looked like a nice one, and it hadn't been clipped to pieces, so that's a good thing. Often you want to check your Japanese block prints because if they've ever been framed, for some reason, back in the especially up until about 1960s, whenever you took these things to the framer, they thought it was perfectly fine to cut the blank area around the outside off on Japanese block prints, and they often snipped away the calligraphy and everything else because they were trying to fit it into a certain size frame and to mat it a certain way. And they thought nothing of trimming a print. And they did it with European prints too, but with Japanese prints, it's pretty devastating to the value. That's pretty devastating to Western art too. Don't clip your prints; leave them alone. Just put the print mat right over the border if you want. And then we're back to this is that nice old China trade box. Somebody got it on one bid of just $900. Bravo! That was a great buy for the Chinese export collector, because that was a top quality trunk and in beautiful condition with a stand with an interesting history of who the seller was. As you recall, we talked about. I'm not going to go through it all over again, but somebody picked it up for $950, and hopefully they've already picked it up and are enjoying it. All right, and then over here to this is a very, very fine ivory fan, beautifully done, very finely detailed, not beautifully lit, I must say. They shot this under a flash, from what I can tell, and sort of washed it out. But if you look at the details here, extremely fine. It looks to be in very nice condition all the way through, and it ended up selling for $1,043. But stick around if you're a fan buyer. Check. There's a fan coming up that's closing in the next few days. There's a reserve on it, but it's one of the best fans I've seen in years. Really something. And then over here to this. This was I don't often show sort of contemporary or 1960s or 70s jewelry, but this was something from Mikimoto that somebody had posted. It was an absolutely beautifully piece of peach with carved jadeite on a gold mountain. Beautiful, beautiful brooch. Absolutely great. There's the Mikimoto stamp on the bottom, but beautiful quality jade. Absolutely wonderful color. Wow. And I thought, boy, that's really nice. And here they did a good job photographing it so you can see the texture of the stone after the carving with the bat and the peaches and all this. Here's a full shot of the back. And in the end, it did very well. It brought $6,561 because that was one fine piece of jade. Mikimoto is a jewelry company, as many of you know. They're famous for their pearls. They controlled a big part of the cultured pearl market for the last 80 years at least. And they're known as very high-end jewelers. But they also sold lots of jewelry like this, very fine jade jewelry. And always look out for it, and look for Mikimoto boxes and see what you can find. But that was a nice piece of jade. Beautiful color. And then jadeite, bright apple green jadeite is very desirable color. That may have been under the money. And then over here to this. This is the one that sold in the UK? This is a really, yeah, it did. This is one of the problems, of course, with international laws and shipping ivory, is that this is a really nice ivory card case. And as we've seen before, when these sell, in the U.S. and places, you can get them shipped. They sell for, $600, $800, $900. But in the UK, apparently shipping is maybe a little bit of a problem. People in Europe are afraid to bid on them. People in the US certainly are afraid to bid on them because CITES permit issues and so forth. Well, somebody picked this up for 395. Oh, this was a seller in Paris. Excuse me, not in the UK. So in Paris, $395. It's because of the shipping issues. Yeah, you can ship it inside Paris, but if somebody in England wanted it, which a lot of collectors there, or they wanted it in the U.S., can't ship it. You really, there's no way to get, seizure. It's going to get seized without paperwork. But at any rate, a very nice card case, and shows you the bargains that can be had. And then over to this. This wasn't a perfect bowl, but it was a really pretty bowl. I actually featured it because I just thought it was so pretty. Early 18th century. Wonderful quality, had a nick on the rim and a star hairline and that kind of thing, but wonderful quality. Here's the nick on the rim right here. See that little tiny chip? That was it. and there was a line in the glaze here, and I don't know. It says there's a star crack, but I couldn't find it. At any rate, but that's a nice looking bowl, beautiful bowl, about 6 inches in diameter, 1720 to 1740. So late Kangxi to early Qianlong period, somewhere in there. Went for $113. Bargain of the week. That was a really good buy. That was a really nice buy. It was from a seller over in Holland. Terrific buy for $113 and only $40 of shipping to the U.S. I don't know how he does that, but so for $150 you get a nice early 18th century bowl that had a couple of issues, but the quality was so good. The quality first, condition second. Always think about quality of things. All right, now over here to this. Oh yeah, this was the other piece that Woolworths had listed, and this they had listed as what did they say? It was Chinese Art Nouveau or something. This is Japanese Art Nouveau, and this was pretty rare and very nicely done. And again, I think they just had somebody doing their things. And here it is. Yeah, Chinese classic arts and crafts. Actually, it's Japanese Art Nouveau. Early 19th century, but really wonderful quality. And as you can see, it was over, there's a ruler, it was over a foot tall. Beautiful thing, just a beautiful vase, and I hope one of you bought it. You got it for $910. I did some looking on these Art Nouveau vases in the right auction environment, in a sale of things of this period, people with that interest, they can bring $2,500 to $5,000 in this style. This is a fairly rare style. I mentioned last week that they can bring thousands. That's what I meant. And I think somebody got a very nice buy on this for under $1,000. Okay. And let's mosey over to, let's see what this one. Oh yeah, the little Dewa pot. Little covered early 19th century Dewa barrel form pot with these rebuses running around it. This nice relief work of the plum blossoms and masks on the ends. Nice looking thing. And somebody picked this up for $820, which is about right. $600 to $900 is the price range for these. But it looked like a good, clean example, and I like the fruit finial on the top. Often the lids of these are long gone, so it's a real bonus to get the covers on these. And nicely done, nicely done. And then what's coming up next week? There's a few things we're going to get into. I've got other stuff I'm going to put. There's about 80 items we're going to put on the newsletter page. Those of you that subscribe to the page know what I'm talking about. This is our weekly. It's more of a listing page than a newsletter page. We don't put a heck of a lot of news in it. We put the videos in there and we update some other information. And you can get notified when we update it by just coming to the site and clicking that. And we update it typically on Fridays at some point. And a couple of weeks ago, we did it before because I was going to be on a commission for a couple of days. But at any rate, this is the page where we put things that we find that are available on eBay and on our own site at Bidamount Live, and to share with you folks each week. And these are all things that we've looked at. So if you're a little bit not certain what you should bid on, these are things we've looked at pretty carefully and decided, yeah, they're okay, they're fine. And this is what was on there last week. There were a number of things. And when you think about it, there are 800,000 things right now in the Asian art category on eBay, or 900,000, some ridiculous number. In the auction listings, these are primarily the bulk of the things we've seen that are auction items that are not insanely overpriced with opening bids of, the opening bid at $100,000 for this 18th century blue and white dinner dish. We don't do that. We don't bother including them. We include things that are auction items that are buyable, that are accurately described and look authentic to us. And this was last week's page, and we'll be updated with new things this week that we find. And for all of you to look at, this is actually our watch page right now. And here it is. Here's one of the things we found this week. If you're a Yixing buyer, red clay, that kind of thing, check this out. This is a very dandy enamel-worked, lobed Yixing bowl. Very nicely done. An old one. This is old. That's good, legit wear on the inside. Here's the outside of it with the blue enamel ground and the bats. You've seen the examples they've done. They did teapots using these colors, especially the blue ground and things like that fairly often. But you don't see these bowls very often. Yixing bowls are very rare. And this is a nice one. The reason they're rare is they break. All right, this is 7¼ inches across. It's up to $168. It's got 4 days to go, and this is being sold by Decor Arts Limited. It's a 19th century bowl, probably first half of the 19th century from what I can see, and it's a heck of a nice bowl. Heck of a nice bowl and rare. Go look around if you're not sure. See how many of these Yixing enamel bowls you can find. You find the cups here and there. You find little cups here and there, and you can't find the occasional plate. But lobed bowls are extremely unusual. And if you're a Zixia buyer, spend $1,500 on this, in my opinion. Sounds crazy, I realize, but I think it's pretty nice. I think it's very nice. If you're a collector, that's what you want. It's the kind of thing you want to collect because you're always going to like it. All right, and on to this. This is that really nice fan I was mentioning. This is a super looking fan. Now, he has a reserve on it according to his listing, but this is a really fine ivory and enamel work fan, and it's got these pinwheel designs with little, like almost swastikas in the middle. And it reminds me of the painting by Van Gogh, Starry Nights. With the pinwheels, the clouds in the sky. Here you have the pinwheels on the fan. There's more of it, but beautifully enameled with the box. It's been monogrammed, but this is a super quality item. Very, very fine. It's already up to $1,000. Hasn't met the reserve yet, but what a package. If you're a fan buyer, do check this out. And you notice on the back of the blade, the primary blade on this end, it's all been enameled. And then you have these beautifully done enameled areas running through it, and this beautifully carved end. I don't see any breaks. Has its original case, ought to bring $2,000 or $3,000. Anyway, it's up to $1,162. It's from a seller in Portugal. How are you going to get it out of? I don't know. How are you going to do the shipping? I don't know. It says small losses, defects, and restorations, but I couldn't see them. So you're going to have to go through the reading here. Maybe that the silk is restored, or some of the enamel has at some point, but I couldn't see anything wrong with it. Anyway, $1,162. Heck of a carving. Heck of a carving. Beautifully done. And then over here to this is that big roundel I was telling you about. There was one similar at the beginning that was in shades of brown and so forth that had a tear at the top and had some losses. This doesn't have any losses. The color is a little bit dirty over here, but probably would clean up at a good textile conservator. Got their hands on it, would clean up nicely. At any rate, this is a heck of a nice piece of silk. There's an old note on the back of it. This Mandarin thing, there are only 12 designs. Oh, somebody's done some homework. There we go. Okay, and there it is. It's mounted. Nicely done. And it's up to $2,950. It's had 65 bids. Closes Tuesday, and expected to bring, somewhere in the $3,500 to $5,000 range, I suspect. All right, this is from Blue Rock is the seller. They are located in Tucson, Arizona. And then the last thing of the day is this very nice Yongchen period famille rose dish. Has a little nick out of the side here, but I like the pattern a lot, and I like the way they cornered the balustrades into the cartouches running around the outside. Nice use of the primary red and the nice use of that nice clear Yongchen yellow and so forth. Let's see here. It's up to $105. This is ceramics and collectibles. Oh, the Shangri-La guys. This is one of theirs over in Amsterdam. It's up to $105. Ought to bring a little more. I thought it was just very pretty and isn't going to break anybody's wallet to buy it. So there you go. And we have a bunch of things from them this week. There's some early Japanese blue and white that they've got listed up. They're going to have in the newsletter page also. Some nice examples, some real classic type pieces, 17th century, good looking. All right, and that's about it for the week. We're working on a couple of things, and we'll be doing the videos next week. And as I said, the ID assistant and the preview assistant thing is going to be running again, starting I guess today. We'll get to them tomorrow morning. And if you haven't subscribed yet to us on YouTube and you like the videos, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. We do a video at least once a week. We try to get, when we can, we do a couple in a week if we have an auction to cover. And we try to provide as much information as we can. All righty. Have a wonderful weekend. Get your Christmas shopping done early if you're a Christmas observer, and if you're not a Christmas observer, get yourself a tree anyway. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. It's going to be cloudy here, but I think as I heard, we're going to hit 50, which is fine. We'll get out and go for a walk. All righty, and see you all next week. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.